Inconspicuous marketing. Sarah, what is that? I've never even heard that term before, and we just started talking about it. What is it?
So you have, yeah, it's like a new thing on social media that people are seeing a lot of. You have inconspicuous marketing, or you have conspicuous marketing, which is people trying to prove their wealth, like with the things that they buy. So they're showing luxury goods, they're showing cars, etc.
Here I am on my private plane, taking off like to my private island or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I don't know if a lot of, whoever watches social media, I follow quite a few celebrities because I like to stay up on pop culture, but you'll see people like Kim Kardashian and all these other people, they're not promoting their wealth heavily anymore on Instagram. They're promoting, skincare and vacations and things that are more beneficial to them. So like the definition of inconspicuous marketing is stuff that is going to benefit, or inconspicuous consumption is buying things and spending money on things that are going to benefit you, not just show how wealthy and exuberant you are, with your spending. Like a Birkin bag, like that's not as popular anymore as being like, oh my gosh, so here's my new skincare routine and here are the products I'm using, buy them from me.
Yeah, here's this like really helpful like website I found that is like going to help you change the way that you organize your day, right? Or something, or like something like that, right? Versus, oh, here's how much money I made on that, but here's how it's going to help you. So it's all about that like value driven aspect of it.
Yes. And we've seen this a lot in recent years on social media that it's more about like your mental health and what's going to be good for you. And with all these, I mean, as much as social media is building and is also a toxic place for people are trying to turn it into more of a like, let's try and benefit you. Let's promote journaling. Let's promote meditation and all these kind of things. And you see the influencers and celebrities promoting more of that stuff than you do seeing them say like, oh my God, look at my new Birkin that cost me $20,000 that I had to get on a list and like buy $40,000 worth of Hermes stuff to even get on the list for the Birkin.
So do you think then that's interesting? Do you think that makes like social media more or less like selfish then?
I think it makes it more selfish.
Yeah, I
I
think so
think
too.
because it's all it is selling. Like it's just you're turning all these people into, that are just on it. I mean, everybody's on social media for themselves. Like
Mhm.
you can post whatever you want on social media and you can say, I don't care about the likes. I don't care how many people see this, whatever. But then you post it and you're like, okay, why is nobody liking my photo? Or why is nobody engaging with it, et cetera? Because you're being selfish. You want people to care about you and nobody cares about you. They all care about themselves. Yeah, we're all on social
I
media.
care about you, Sarah. I care about you a lot.
Oh,
Well,
I care
let's
about you too.
let's actually introduce you now. We're like a couple minutes in, but like that's we gotta start with value, right? We gotta jump right into this. And now that you're hooked, let me tell you who this lovely individual is here. This is none other than Sarah Crossley. Excuse me, I almost just like mispronounced your last name. Very easy last name, by the way. Sarah, you're head of sales and marketing, Defy Mortgage, a relatively new player in the industry, but you have a really great background too. So why don't you tell those that maybe don't know you, and if you don't know Sarah yet, like where have you been? Homegirl is like star of the mortgage industry. So if you don't know Sarah, like Sarah, give us your background, like tell us about yourself, about your background in the mortgage business, about marketing, all those things.
Yeah. So I thank you for the great introduction. That was beautiful. Except for the last, I'm just kidding. It's fine. So I fell into marketing and I think a lot of people that know me know this. I fell into the mortgage industry also, not unlike a lot of people in the mortgage industry.
No one grows up to think that
I
they're
know.
going to be in the mortgage business.
Right. But a lot of people start out like, a loan officer or a banker or something. And I just kind of came in and started doing HR for a company right out of college because I went to school for psychology and then everybody knows I worked at Form Free, worked there for 5 years, rebranded the company, was director of marketing there. And that's really where I got sank my teeth into mortgage, built all the relationships that I have, like did a long tenure there.
Best rebrand ever, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, good work on that one.
It was, this whole thing is about value. Obviously, we've already talked about that, but it's, how do you provide that value through the brand and the way that you look and the way that people interact with your brand? How do you convey that value like subconsciously to somebody if they don't understand? I like to think of a website as when you land on the website, there's a subconscious feeling that every website or every brand invokes with somebody that you might not necessarily know is happening, but it is. And so it's like, how do you tap into that? And that's how you create that value and that relationship with the customer. Instead of like, you don't have a person that's reaching out to your customers all the time. They go to a website. So how do you make your website a person or convey the same characteristics a person or a human would?
Oh, that's interesting. Now we're talking psychology, right? Because this is your background. And like, this is what I love about, you bring up earlier point of like, nobody really lands in the mortgage industry like on purpose. It just kind of happens. And you came in via like a really unique route of having that psychology background into HR and then dumping into marketing. But that if you would just look at that, it seems kind of odd, but like really it makes perfect sense because marketing is using psychology to understand value and the other person on the other side of the screen or the room or whatever to help them understand the value that you're bringing to the table. And so I think that that's actually really cool that you have that psychological background. I like that a lot. Do you find like that's been really helpful for you in your different marketing endeavors?
Oh, 100%. It's I'm a very people person. I think people know that and get that. I'm like, you want to put me on the road? Not that I've been on the road recently, but it's like, you want to put me in front of people? I'm never going to say no to that. I think it helps in everyday life, honestly. If you can I'm very, getting back to the selfish thing. I'm very aware of others and what others need and what others need out of a conversation, what they need out of, work, a brand, whatever. So it definitely helps a lot. And it helps whenever I tell somebody, oh, I'm in marketing, but I went to school for psychology. They're like, oh, well, that seems natural. Like it's very marketing all about people and how do they interact? How do they buy? I mean, if you can tap into the consumers, psychological, like what makes them buy a product, what makes them engage with a brand, then you can pretty much have a brand that, you can build a name for yourself that consumers want to work with and that they remember and understand.
Okay, this is awesome. I want to ask you a question. I hope you've got a great answer for this. I'm sure you do. All right. So this is for every marketer in the mortgage business. How can they use what different types of psychology can they use to help their loan officer, like teach their loan officers to get more business using tactics that you've learned along the way?
Okay. I'm like, let me tap back into those psychology textbooks. I'm like, so
Yeah.
no, I think it's just understanding your customers. I think so many times, even as a loan officer, I think so many times let me take it back. I'm like trying to think, how can I take this on a good tangent, not a bad one? So your house, like the purchase, the mortgage is the biggest purchase you're ever going to make, unless you make a larger house purchase, later down the road. It's the largest and it's the scariest because it takes so much and it's so unknown. Like there are great people. I mean, there's great loan officers out there and great people that work at banks that have taken to TikTok, the younger generation that is like, I'm going to help you. Like, this is what rates mean. This is what this means. This is when you see all this fluctuating, et cetera. So, but there's not a lot of that knowledge out there and it's brand new. So I think, those people are doing a really good job and they're providing value to their customers. And so I think you need to figure out like, this is going to be a big purchase for your customer. We know that. And a lot of times we just kind of assume that, oh my God, now I lost my train of thought.
No, you totally got it. You're right there.
Wait, hold on. No, this happens all the time. I'll bring it back. What was I going to say? Nope. Now I've completely lost it.
No, I mean, what I heard you say.
Ask the question again, because
well, we're talking about the way to use psychology to help market your mortgage business, right? And what you said, I think, is very eloquent in saying like, hey, putting yourself in your customer's shoes is the most important thing, right? This is like the biggest purchase they'll ever do. It's very harrowing experience to like go through this whole process. So putting yourselves in their shoes to help have that empathy that you need to connect with them is the way to kind of go through that, right?
Yes, exactly. And that's now see, you helped me get it back. That so many times we think that we have a product or a service to sell, and we think that just selling that product is going to get consumers to buy and feel safe enough to work with us. And that's obviously not the case. And so if you can if you know your audience and you know, how do I be empathetic to these people? How do I understand what's going on the other side of the transaction? It's not just a transaction.
Right.
And I think like we think about it so much as this is just a transaction. This is just a stack of papers that I have to review. I have to get written. I got to get the money, figure it all out. And that's not what it is. There's a lot more human aspect that goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody, loan officers can utilize social media to go in and start creating this. It's the same as what a company does, creating this persona of, hey, I am a trustworthy, reliable person. You want to work with me because I'm going to, hold your hand through the whole process. Not that everybody needs that, but it's, you want to have this white glove service that you're providing to people. And nobody knows that unless you're talking to them, and the way to talk to them is social media.
Yeah, well, I think that kind of brings everything back to the beginning of the conversation here of inconspicuous marketing, right? Inconspicuous consumption, but inconspicuous marketing here of like, all right, when you as a loan officer are building your personal brand and you want to have that empathetic connection, those individuals on the other side of the screen who will be your consumers, or maybe it's a realtor referral or source that you want to like just get to know, they need to see that holistic view of you to know that you're not just going to be a transaction to them, right? And so I think that's part of that personal branding. So what do you think about that? Like, how do you then think about personal branding and social media in terms of like being able to connect more empathetically with consumers and referral sources?
Yeah. And I'll just take this like to Defy, because like what we've seen at Defy already, we've been around I've been there for about 6 months. And so we've been really, our goal from the beginning was to really lean on social media to drive traffic in, because it's a way, our CEO saw that like social media is where a lot of the people in our audience live. We're going after alternative asset people. We're going after entrepreneurs and investors and the community of people that don't necessarily have a community. So we're trying to create a community for these people that they don't really fall into that traditional lending guidelines. So we're trying to go after them and help them. And a lot of them, we were like, let's do social media because that's where everybody's living these days. And we're going after a younger generation who does live on social media. So we are marketing, we're doing direct to consumer, but we're also doing B2B relationships as well. And I think referrals are so huge. And that's a huge thing that I think a lot of loan officers can focus on, is doing the referral business, because realtors, funny enough, I think out of the entire mortgage transaction, the home buying process, they're the ones who are on social media the most, because they're the ones who are those front facing with the borrowers and consumers. Like when you go to look for a house, you don't go and type in like, I need a loan. You go and like, you go to Zillow and you're like, I need a home, or like what realtors are in my area. You have so many people. I guarantee you every single person has a friend that's a realtor. Like that's just, or knows one.
Two or like one or two connection, right?
Yes,
First or second connections.
Exactly. Sure. And so many of my friends are realtors or have their license. They might not even do enough or like consider themselves, but they have their license. So I think it's, it's really good to get in front of the realtors on that B2B referral side, because if you can make those relationships as a loan officer there, and you can get your brand out in front of, the real estate partners, agents in your area, then it's a lot more likely, like when they have someone, like, let's just say for Defy, we'll just take it back to our company. Since we're doing such a niche group of people, that we're going out to a lot of agents that work with customers that are in our audience and our group of customers that we want to work with. And there's not a lot of us out there that can provide these alternative, ways of doing a mortgage. And so these real estate partners are like, oh, great. So they might not necessarily send their next customer to us, but they're going to know our brand, and we're going to be in front of them on social media. And we're going to put, if we bring loan officers on to do the hybrid model, they're going to interact with our loan officers and they're going to know us. So when they have a customer that meets our requirements, but not the traditional, they're like, Defy Mortgage, that's the company I'm going to send them to. And so it's
that's the value to them is like, hey, I've got this unique home buyer that I want to put into this house, but my traditional lenders are not going to be able to do this type of loan. So being present and being with them and then showing them the value of like, hey, you can get more homes sold, and you can help more home buyers get into the houses that they want with their unique situations. And just call it like it is. Like, there are a lot more unique situations today than there have been in the past because of the way that the world has turned because of the pandemic, right? Everyone's got weird jobs and different types of assets all over the place. And like, that's a neat void that you guys are filling with Defy. I really like that.
Yeah. And kind of, because I'm like, oh, what's the word? Oh, gig economy. Like you have all these
Yeah.
people that are doing, nobody has a stable job. I mean, people have stable jobs, but people like so many, you have influencers now. They make money off of brands and they make money off of social media. Well, that's not technically a job. It took a long time for that to come around and be something. And you have people that are thinking about making money in a lot of new different ways. And so they want to put it into a home. They want to invest in property. And it's like, well, how do they if a lot of banks aren't recognizing them as people that can afford a home, even though they're more than qualified?
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I was going to sum it up with something else too. And now
no, I love it. I think it's good. Let's wrap this up because we've gone way over time, and I'm not surprised that we did this because
this out.
this is how we go. No, you're great. This is really awesome. Sarah, tell me last little thing here. One more question for you is, if you were a loan officer today and you really wanted to focus on realtor referral business, where would you spend most of your time marketing and sales wise? Like, what would you do?
You mean like platforms
do?
and companies I'd use, or like what social media out, or like, I think
Anything.
okay, from a brand, or like a less tangible item, where I would start is not treating the process, not treating social media like a transaction. I think that just like what I said, you're building a relationship and you're establishing a brand. So let's say, I'm just going to name one of I'm like, this is off the top of my head, Carl, one of our like new hybrid loan officers. We need to create a brand for him so that people understand how to interact with him. And it's not, I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to put one social post out there, or I'm going to do this for a week and then I'm going to get 3 homes off of it. That's not the case. That's not the case with any social media. No influencer got on social media and like, boom, they were, a hit in one day. And if one post was a hit, they're dead the next. The news cycle is 4 days long. So I think it's understanding that it is a long-term brand play. It's not a transactional thing. And if you're going to do social media, you have to be consistent with it, whether it's, utilizing a platform like Agora Pulse or Social Coach, like there's many platforms out there that you can use, or, that's more on those like corporate levels, or if it's just like having your own calendar, etc. And I think there's starting to be more of a market of people that are already talking about these things and already doing a really good job as loan officers, or just in the industry in general, not on LinkedIn. I don't think that's another thing. It's like, if you're going to get to anyone, you're going on Instagram or TikTok. That's where you're going.
100%. Yeah.
And they're already,
I would say Instagram number one, like TikTok, if you want to go after like a lot of more first-time home buyers and younger generation, but like Instagram is like what we found, honestly, with our stats is like, that's the number one platform to get business as a loan officer today. It's just
100%. I think like if you're going to go like that B2B, creating relationships with realtors, even B2C is Instagram, but heavy B2C going direct to the consumer would be TikTok. That's totally everybody's living, but I think it's also organic content too. It's not really advertising. I think organic, it takes a lot more work, but I think that's where people want to know who you are. And if you want to film a video and it's you and it's authentic and you want to turn that into an ad, sure, go ahead. But it's not the traditional sense of advertising online. It's more of, let's be organic, let's be authentic. And like,
it's literally just, it's being you and being consistently you that other people can see. Because you're living even if it's a boring life, like there's stuff that you can talk about every single day on social media. And 100%. If you really want to build a personal brand, you really want to like get more loans, you've got to be there almost every day.
Right. And I don't think people should be scared to put some of their life stuff on there. Like I don't typically put a lot of mine on there because I'm actually trying, unless it is work or business, I'm trying to get off of social media because I consume a lot on social media. Instagram, I mean, I buy so much through Instagram ads. There's a package at my house every day.
I think that's a really solid point though, Sarah, is that like it can be overwhelming for a lot of people, but even feeling overwhelmed, you're still influenced enough to buy something through Instagram. And it's because, and I know this too, because I've bought so much useless stuff off of Instagram, but it's because I kept on seeing the same thing over and over and over again. And then it was like when that time came for me to need a new phone case, I was like, well, this makes sense. I'm just going to buy the one that I always see.
Right.
Right. And so it's the same thing for you as a loan officer or you as a marketer of a software company. Like consistently show up that when that person is ready to buy, they'll already know you and they'll have already thought about you. And so it's
Exactly.
not an overnight success, but it's a, and if you only do, like you said, if you only do one time, it's not going to work. It's that consistency over time is where the results will show.
Right. You are not eating the entire cake all at once. You're taking a bite every single time.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's the same thing with social media, and you're not building a house, you're building it brick by brick. You're not just plopping it up in the middle of the desert or something.
That's right.
It is daily. And I think if people just think about it as a daily consistent thing, then it gets a little bit less scary, because if you just say, I've got to be huge and I've got to bring in 100 loans by the end of this year, all through social media, you're never going to do it. You're going to be terrified. But if you're like, I'm going to go build relationships with people, and those are hopefully going to get me loans. If you go in thinking, sorry, now I'm rambling because I'm like on a roll, but like if you go in thinking that every single person you communicate to is just an opportunity to buy, or just, if you go in thinking like, I need homes, it's not about that. It's about building relationships. So it's like, you can't think about it. It's like back to the whole selfish topic. It's like, you can't think about it as in your head. Sure, maybe it's me, and like, I need to bring in money, but what you're doing on social media is providing value to other people. And if you don't have a benefit or a value or a focus on your audience and what they need, then it doesn't matter how famous you are, you're never going to get, business coming in through the door. You have to focus on your customer.
Boom. I think we should end on that. That was perfect. Great way to summarize everything we've talked about today in such a nice, succinct way, Sarah. So good job with that. Thank you so much for
eventually.
It was perfect. It was perfect. Thank you so much for joining me today on this podcast and sharing your wisdom and wealth of knowledge and understanding of the marketing business, psychology, mortgage, and all the different things that we chatted about today. So if you guys are seeing this, you're probably on LinkedIn. I'm going to tag Sarah in it. Definitely connect with her, and we'll talk to you soon, Sarah.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Until next time. See ya.
Adios.
All right. Where's my stop?